is trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, the holly suggestions that folly, attempt a mental robbery, executed sloppily. The papacy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
What's up, sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends? Welcome to your Sunday night Rogue Ways episode. I just keep looking at my screen because I'm trying to see. I have my microphone basically right in the way of like the shit that I want to know what's up. But anyway, trying a bunch of new shit out. I've got a new audio setup. Hopefully the audio is much better. It drives me insane. Because if you've been paying attention of the past few episodes, shit just gets worse and worse for no apparent reason. And you know, whatever. Could be fuckery, could be that equipment goes bad eventually, but most of my equipment is brand new, basically, and should be good for a while, but it wasn't. So, new setup. Hopefully it sounds better. I am trying to get it to where I can do the same audio that you hear on a normal episode like this when I'm interviewing somebody. But for now, it might not be that way. I'm doing it through Restream, and Restream doesn't let me import audio and you know, the Rogueways logo and whatnot. So for now, that's the way it is. It is good to be with you guys and hopefully being heard and seen well. I see Sue Finelli is here and some other people are chiming in. It seriously bothers me that I can't see my chat. I'll have to fix that next time, but hopefully I will be able to see your guys' chat as we go, because that's half the fun. So let me pull some other option up while I'm blabbering and see if I can do it that way. This doesn't work as well, but I should at least be able to see your comments on YouTube, and every once in a while I'll lean back and see what else is over there. But just to remind y'all, oh, this motherfucker. There we go. Just to remind you guys of some things before we jump into it. Today I'm going to tell you about some terrifying stuff that's coming our way. Hopefully not, but it seems that it might be, and so we want to be prepared for it, especially concerning vaccines and forced vaccines. But first, I want to remind you guys that you can go to my site, CoreySharman.com. That's my pen name. You can also get there by typing in rogueways.org. You can find all kinds of shit that I write, and things that I sell and services I provide when you check that out. If you look along the top here, we've got all these tabs that can take us different places. You can hook to my Subscribe Star, which we'll get to. You can find the past episodes of Rogueways archived there in audio format until my site suddenly broke and no one could figure out how to fix it. And so I switched to a different audio file hosting system. You can find my books that I have published. I am in the process, because I just finished the sequel to Sine Curve of Aeons, which is an amazing story about, wow, my audio, you don't hear it, but I hear it. Sometimes it screeches at me and it's amazing. But yeah, Sine Curve of Aeons is about the yugas and the humanity's evolution through the yugas in a very spiritual process that takes billions and billions of years, and the sort of pit holes that go along with that. So that's Sine Curve of Aeons, and I just finished the sequel, which is Earth, A Trough in Time, and I'm very excited about that. And so before I release it, I went back through Sine Curve just to do a few things, and so I'm kind of making the Ultra edition that's going to come out soon. But for now, if you want to buy the traditional edition as it has been for years, you can purchase it through the site. It actually goes through Amazon. If you want to buy it from me directly, you can save taxes and shipping. I will ship it to you anywhere in the United States for $15, and that'll save you taxes and shipping. If you bought it from Amazon, it would cost more. I also will inscribe it to you and include some stickers. The people who have bought that package are excited and happy with it. You can also see my other works, a memoir about when I taught on a Native American reservation called The Gypsy on the Res, and a collection of poems called Mutable Realia. So more will be added to this in the near future. Like I said, the sequel is almost ready to go. I also do tarot readings. They are meant to be supportive of you and your spiritual and psychological place in your life at this moment. They can be modified to fit any question, any problem, any sort of roadblocks that you're facing. They're very helpful. People who get them tend to feel very strongly and profoundly that they have changed their life in some way or helped them sort through what's going on at the time. So if therapy is too expensive for you, this is a really good option. And they're $60 for a 10-card reading. It takes about an hour. I meet with you on Skype or any other video or audio setting that you would like. You can keep the video of it and go back to it. I give you a picture afterwards and a summary of what we talked about. And so it's a very in-depth process if you're interested in that. There's also some smaller tarot readings than the 10-card that you can purchase. I don't like to sell them as much. Wow. I wonder why it says that. Because they tend to not give you as much as you want. You tend to be left wanting more. So, but you could always buy the 4-card and upgrade. After that, we can add to it if you would like to. Anyway, you can buy classes in tarot from me. I teach about spiritual types of things usually. We also can do a guidance session if tarot isn't your thing, but you do want to get into the nitty-gritty aspects of our emotions, psycho-spiritual situation that we find ourselves in, and the guidance session might be best for you. So you can check out the classes in tarot section to see those things. And I still do have some orgone pendants left. They're gorgeous. They're one of a kind. I'm going to make more when these go, but these are the ones that are left. So if you are interested in those, go check those out. And finally, I will stop talking about random shit soon after I show you that Rogue gear has been price reduced. There was a problem I had unintentionally added to the price by adding text basically on the back of the shirts, and I didn't realize that added $6. So people who looked at this and thought, why the hell are these so expensive? That's why. They're much cheaper now. So if you ever looked and wanted something but thought it was too expensive, I encourage you to go back and check out what is available. It is much lower prices now. I make $1 or $2 off the sale of each of these. So mostly they're there if you like the logo and you want to find a way to support me. These are cool things that you can do. So those are the ways to support me. Of course, my favorite way to be supported is through Subscribestar. If you go to subscribestar.com/rogue-ways, you can support, and I urge you to support even at the dollar level. Everyone can afford $1 a month. And if you have found value from Rogue Ways, then that is one way you can share value back at a very affordable rate. If you're feeling up to it, you can get more perks at the higher levels. $7 isn't too much either per month. I think most people could probably afford that. And of course, the other levels offer you even more access. The Rogue Soul level at $55 a month gives you a 10-card reading each month. And if you remember from what we just reviewed, that's $5 off a 10-card reading. So it's actually a discount for you. And you get access to all the content on Rogue Ways, like my audiobook versions of my books and other content that you do not find elsewhere. So let's get to it. I'm just going to quickly, oh good, it's not showing. Somebody is chatting with me and I don't want to show it, but anyways, I'm going to say what's up to DD Specs in the chat as well. What's up, DD Specs, and the other people watching if you're on Facebook or DLive. I may not see your chat unless you hop over to YouTube, so go check that out to participate. Before we get into the heavy and hard topics we're going to go over tonight, I want to show you guys some of the fun things going on in my life that remind us that it is spring and things are renewing and growing and bursting into life, and it is a beautiful process to be a part of. These are my baby chicks I got a couple weeks ago, Hopshkin and Regan. Hopshkin is a black and silver laced Wyandotte, and Regan is a red, oh gosh, I can't even remember now. No, that's not even it. She's a Bielefelder. There we go. She's a red Bielefelder. So those are my little chickies. They're growing up quick. They've already got their wing feathers in. If you can see that, they're getting big. They're so cute, and we cuddle every day. I got roses planted and blooming. Roses, if you didn't know, will give you vitamin C when they get to the when they're done blooming and you get the rose hips. You can harvest the rose hips and you can dry them and turn them into tea. You can make rose hip jelly. Actually, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do with roses. So if you love them, they're beautiful. You can do all kinds of medicinal and health-oriented things with roses, and they're awesome. Planting melons. Got them up on a hill here in their bed. These are cantaloupe. We got watermelon sprouting. I'm sorry, I just reversed those. The first one was watermelon, the second one was cantaloupe. This is my nearly 100 square feet of bed. We've got carrots, cucumbers, zucchini, beets, radish, corn, beans, peas, and something else I'm forgetting. Lots of food coming in. We just got this all installed. It's not super pretty, but it's going to be very healthy and good. Got berry bushes. I can't remember which one. I have currant, grape, and one other. So we've got the berry bushes in. Got lilac blooming. Someone just told me you can eat lilac or do something with it, which I didn't know lilac was edible. So I'm gonna look into that and figure that out, because my goal is to only plant things that can be eaten or used as medicine, or support humanity in some way, in that way, especially if our food stuff goes downhill. This bed looks much better. I just finished it today, but I wanted to show my irises and my catmint. The irises were already here. Luckily, they're blooming now. They're amazing. If you haven't smelled irises, I didn't even know they smelled, and some guy walking by watching me garden today was telling me that you can actually smell them and that they smell delicious. And so I got real close and huffed real big, and oh my God, he's right. Irises smell amazing. If you can smell an iris soon, go do it. And that's just nothing. And my herbs growing inside, we've got, what's the one that makes you relax? Chamomile, basil, chives, and cilantro. So yum. Got all kinds of food, and I just wanted to share those life-affirming, positive things that are going on in the world before we get to the depressing shit. And we're going to start with our friend here, Ammon Bundy, who I don't really know a lot about. I remember he had the standoff with the federal government not too long ago. And I'm going to play this on double time because I think it goes better that way. But he saw this press conference with Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington, the state I just left. And he talks about some pretty disturbing trends that are coming up concerning our children. So let's take a quick listen. Oh, there's no sound? Jesus Christ, we just tested this. For real? That kills like half of the shit. I seriously tested this like 25 minutes ago and it worked perfectly. The sound was fine. And now you can't hear the video. Let me just check something. Hopefully that's better. What's up, Austin? I'm hoping that you guys can hear this now that I just made a small adjustment. It was working 20 minutes ago. Still no sound? Jesus fuck. This is why I get so frustrated. Because we literally tested it 45 minutes ago and it worked fine. Nothing has changed at all and now it doesn't work. and people don't really believe me, and they think that I don't know what I'm doing, but it's actually that things happen for no reason, and no one can explain why. So I guess we won't watch videos in this show, and that's fine. Oops. I'll just tell you, basically Ammon Bundy here is talking about Jay Inslee, a governor of Washington, making this pronouncement, that they're going to have contact tracers, that they can quarantine you against your will, that they're going to take you to other places outside of your home, take you away from your family to quarantine you. So this sounds like forced quarantining. And also the part that is really disturbing about this, because we've all kind of heard about that, the contact tracers, the apps that they're going to try to have people download or force people to download, the possible forced removal from your house. But the part that was new for me was that they're talking about children's centers, where they will take children who are at risk, or you can assume that they also include children of people who maybe refuse vaccines. That's what I'm thinking, at least. Under the auspices of giving them better care or protecting them, they're going to remove them to these child centers. They just hired, and Ammon here shows the page eventually, and maybe I could jump to that part and see. You don't need sound for it. Maybe this is it. Here we go. The Department of Children and Youth and Families was hiring for these camps, Cedar Springs Camp, Visitation Center, and Bethel Church, where they're going to hold children who are either COVID-19 positive or who may have been exposed to COVID-19. Why would you remove children who are exposed to this thing that is barely deadly in the first place, and definitely not to children? This is the only time I've heard of the government talking about removing children to a facility, and we can imagine, as we've seen all over the world and all throughout history, that when you take children away and you put them in facilities, they get raped and abused. So we can imagine that would happen here. And so, especially given that, I don't know why you would ever remove them from your family. So this doesn't sound like people are going to have a choice. It sounds like Jay Inslee is saying, and he did say in this thing, if you go listen to his press release, that it won't be optional to comply with these things. He says, we hope that people will do it, just voluntarily, but if not, we're going to just do it anyway. He says that. So you can go watch and listen to that. This page specifically that's in this video that you're seeing here, I can't find it anymore. Clearly it was there under government jobs. He links to it in the description, but it doesn't exist anymore. Possibly that's because of the attention called to it by this video. Possibly it is because they already got all the people they needed. He even said within a day or two of them posting this, intra-agency, so people who already worked for the government applied, and they got thousands of people hired as these child specialists, to go to these camps with the kids. I'm positive, as you probably are too, that a lot of the people who applied, a lot of them might just be looking for the extra money. They get a raise if they do this, they get bonuses if they do this, but that any pedophile is going to apply for something like that because they were going to have unsupervised access to children. So this is really disturbing that children might be forced out of their homes and brought to these camps because they were exposed to COVID-19. Like, it makes my heart hurt. It is really, really unfortunate that this is where things might be headed. So if you're in Washington, which my families are, you might want to think about if you want to get the fuck out of there as fast as possible, because other states I haven't seen this from so far. Then again, as Ammon points out in this video, if you want to go watch it, and I'll link to it in the chat, he points out that Washington seems to be a sort of leader. Once Washington does something, especially in regards to this, COVID and whatnot, other people tend to then follow suit, other states. And so it's disturbing to see this trend in Washington. So this is the first thing I wanted to talk about, and how quickly it disappeared too. Like I said, maybe it was because they hired all the people they needed, but I can't even find mention of this anywhere. So it'd be interesting to go looking for these specific locations. These are all, like, Bethel Church just is a place that exists. It wasn't like built to be a camp, but I've never heard of Cedar Springs Camp, and I don't know what the Visitation Center is. It'd be interesting to look into those locations and just see if they're, FEMA related or what the deal is with those. And maybe we'll do that. This specific screenshot, if you want to look for the text itself, is at 9 minutes and 22 seconds in, as you can see. So that's disturbing. There's that. They want to steal our kids and force them into these camps where we absolutely know that the overwhelming evidence shows us they will be raped and abused. We have all heard now of this House Resolution 6666. I don't know why they didn't just skip this number. I mean, I guess they would have had to skip all the 666s, because 666, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like all of them would be disturbing to most people, but they didn't. You know, we can skip the 13th floor in every building that exists, but we can't skip 666 for some reason. So here we are with House Bill 6666, and it's basically what it is. If you look into it, is just giving money so that states can initiate these contact tracing and other activities. If you look into it, it's like it supports any sort of forced quarantining, paying for the people who are going to be overseeing things like the children's camps or whatever. Saying it out loud is like difficult. It's a fucked up concept. But this funds all of that. So it's not like it's making it legal or not. It's just funding it, basically. But it's disturbing because it's one more... I don't know why it jumped to the glossary of terms. Anyway, you can look through the text if you want to, and you can kind of see what it's about. But essentially, it's authorizing the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants, so fund these things, for diagnostic testing of COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing, mobile health units, and as necessary at individuals' residences and for other purposes. And the other purposes is what we're concerned about, right? But it does go into mobile health units, contact tracing, hiring and training people, blah, blah, blah. So it's for the states. It's not really even that exciting, except that we can see that if at the federal level the funding is coming along, then that means the states are getting ready to deploy all this stuff. So we can go back to the beginning and we can see that, again, we flattened the curve. It's flat as fuck. It's now declining greatly. They're talking about second waves. They're talking about, reinfections and not understanding the virus. But given how very, very not deadly it was and how very, very not overwhelmed we were, we should be wondering why we're still passing things like this to address a problem that has already come and gone. Of course, as critical thinkers, we then all start to ask ourselves, what do they have planned? What's the next wave going to look like? We see in places where they're already opening up, there's no spikes, there's no reemergence, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that's in store and coming down the road. So this is just it's a kind of boring bill, but it just shows us where they're headed in their thinking, despite the fact that we are done with this problem by all measures. It's done. So then we ask ourselves, can they force us to vaccinate ourselves or our children? And this is a quick overview of state and federal authority to impose vaccination requirements. It's from May last year. It was written, by what organization? Congressional Research Service, informing legislative debate since 1914. So they're just providing this service to kind of overview the court cases and, the division of powers and see like who can do what, basically. It's an interesting document. I don't know. No, I don't think this link will work for you, but I'll provide all these links later. Anyway, it basically says that states do have the authority to force mandated vaccinations. And they say that they do because anything that's not delegated to the federal government in the Constitution, therefore, falls to the states. And so this is one of those things that is not covered in the Constitution and falls to the states. And that, there's court cases like the Supreme Court in Jacobson versus Commonwealth of Massachusetts upheld the state law that gave municipal boards of health the authority to require the vaccination of persons over the age of 21. This was specifically for smallpox, but that set the precedent, right? It also talks about how states have the responsibility to take care of their people. Where was that? Here we go. They have the responsibility to enact laws to provide for the public health, safety, and morals of the state's inhabitants. Interesting language, and it's true. They do legally have that responsibility and authority to do that. So we see that not only do they have the authority to do it, but they also have the precedent to do it already set up. There, of course, are all kinds of exemptions like religious and, conscientious objection and all of these things. It does talk about how the federal authority does not allow for mandates, but it does, demand that there's sort of support for getting vaccines around or getting health supplies to various places and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But the main part is that we want to notice that states do have this authority. I mean, we know that they don't. We know that our authority comes only from natural universal law and through God, or whatever you want to call that, and not through these little pieces of paper that we call law and legality. But they think they do, and it is precedent. So we know now that they feel like they can force vaccination, even though they haven't yet pushed it to that limit in the past. We have the precedent set for the future. I'm just going to check in with the chat. Let's see. What's up, Erie Fairy? Nice to see you. What's up, Raleigh? What's up, Steve Mercer? What's up, Chad Clemens? Nice to see you guys all. It sounds killer. Yeah. No, the audio, though. It does sound good. Thank you. Too bad the YouTube audio isn't working. Like, we literally just tested it. I'll stop talking about that now. It's just disappointing. So this is then to further that idea that they feel like they can mandate vaccines and perhaps are getting ready to do so. America's military vaccine mandate. Department of Defense purchasing 500 million Apiject syringes to inject every person in America with coronavirus vaccine. We don't know that they want to inject every person in America, except that we know they do. But that's not necessarily factual. But what is factual is that the Department of Defense has purchased Apiject services in basically packaging and dispersing 500 million vaccines. 500 million vaccines. That is more than the population of the United States. So that's part of this article's assumption is, why would you get 500 million vaccines for a country that doesn't have 500 million people in it? And you obviously want to inject every single person. And that is very possible. So let's see the press release. Spearheaded by the DOD's Joint Acquisition Task Force in coordination with the HHS Office of the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, the contract will support Jumpstart to create a U.S.-based high-speed supply chain for pre-filled syringes beginning later this year by using a well-established blow-fill seal aseptic plastics manufacturing technology suitable for combating COVID-19 when a safe and proven vaccine becomes available. We're going to look at Apiject next and their methods. But basically they're going with Apiject, they say, because it's much easier than dispensing a bunch of glass vials of vaccine, and then you have to do all the syringes separately, and it's just like such a problem. So this Apiject combines it all in one. It's like basically plug and play. You just pull out the vaccine, like inject it, and you don't have to have any intelligence about you to do so. And also things won't break because they're plastic or whatever. So this is why they're going with Apiject, allegedly. Of course, there's other reasons. The Apiject syringes do come with an optional RFID tag so that healthcare workers can track the GPS location and identity of the individual being injected. It's true. We'll look at Apiject, like I said, but with an optional RFID NFC tag on each BFS pre-filled syringe, Apiject will make this possible. Before giving an injection, the healthcare worker will be able to launch a free mobile app and tap the pre-filled syringe on their phone, capturing the NFC's tag's unique serial number, GPS location, and date time. The app then uploads the data to a government-selected cloud database. Aggregated injection data provides health administration an evolving real-time injection map. They're relying a lot on technology, and that's another thing that we're going to get into in this presentation, how much technology they are jumping into with this whole endeavor. But so that's another reason they're going with Apiject. Apiject has the RFID capability so that you can know for sure who has gotten tagged. It's crazy. And you know, that smartphone, it's like literally any random human they hire can just have this app, have the Apiject. You don't need to know how to fill the syringe or test it to see if it's ready to go or any of that stuff. It's just, you know, plug and play. And the app is obviously going to be super easy. So they're going to take the vaccine, tap it on the app, and then inject it into the person. Done. You're done. And as this article points out, don't forget that this is being married with President Trump's Operation Warp Speed, which aims to bypass all the usual protocols of vaccine safety, testing, and clinical trials, delivering up to 300 million coronavirus vaccine doses before the end of calendar 2020. Just in time for Agenda 21. How perfect. So 500 million pre-filled vaccines coming. Again, the assumption, as the article points out, is the only reason they would need so many doses is if there's a plan underway to force vaccines on everyone. It's even more than enough to force vaccines on everyone. And somebody pointed out, and it's not a bad point, that perhaps the reason why they have so many is they're planning to share with, Canada or Mexico. Maybe they're not planning on forcing it. Maybe they're just getting a lot ready. Maybe it's because they want to pay off the, Gates Foundation or whoever's making these vaccines, the ones they end up with. We all know it's going to be Bill Gates's version, but whatever. Maybe that's all there is to it. And it could be, and let's hope. But it looks a bit more nefarious than that. They make the good point. If coronavirus vaccines were planned to be optional, respecting the vaccine choice of individuals, not more than 100 million doses would be needed. The fact that 500 million doses are being manufactured is an admission that the DOD and HHS plan to make coronavirus vaccines mandatory. Maybe. Sometimes when we catch this shit ahead of time, it seems to stop it in its tracks. So, it could be that. I'm going to say hi to Irene Schnabel. What's up, Irene? I hope I said your name right. And like farm animals, that's right. That's all we really are to them. Yeah, cash out your birth certificate. I want to try it too. And then it goes through, obviously, which we've shown in previous episodes, and a lot of people have talked about these ingredients in vaccines are often not only disgusting and toxic, but sometimes they're just downright immoral and against people's personal ethics, such as having aborted human fetal tissue. Some people don't believe this for some reason, but you can find video testimony or you can read it if you want the transcript of some of the doctors who worked on this admitting that, yes, we use human fetal tissue in vaccines and we have no problem with that. There's also other animals in there like cow and pig. So especially if you're a vegan or if you're a Muslim or Jewish, then you would hopefully be opposed to injecting that in your body. But not everyone knows that this crap is in there. And it talks about how LA County is still now doing another 2 months lockdown or something again, even though nobody's dying. But it also goes into possible depopulation agendas, especially we know that Bill Gates is a eugenicist and that Agenda 21 and the Georgia Guidestones call for population reductions and control. So these things are out there in the open that they want to do these things to people. So it could be that is the plan, mandatory vaccination, and then that vaccine would be a trigger for death. And there's a couple different ways that could be used to trigger death in people, and we're going to go through those in this episode. One of them we've talked about before, which is that the corona, adeno, and rhinoviruses, when put into a vaccine in the past for animals and humans, when they then later encountered any of those families of viruses in the wild, their response to the virus was hyper-violent, and often resulting in extreme damage, if not death. So there's one way that you could force a coronavirus vaccine, and then everyone is going to come in contact with a coronavirus, whether it's COVID, CoV2, SARS-CoV-2, or whatever this one supposedly is, or not. There are tons of coronaviruses, rhinoviruses, and adenoviruses in the wild, and you are going to come in contact with them, whether your immune system tells you or not. It's happening. So that's one terrifying way that this could be used against us as a deadly weapon. Let alone that we know that vaccines kill and maim people and have for a long time. This state system of authoritarian medical tyranny is concerning no matter where you stand on things and no matter whether you like viruses or not. The fact that they have been slowly putting into place this system where they can say that for your health and safety, we're going to do this and this for you, and if you don't do that for your children, we'll take them away for you, and if you don't do it for yourself, we're going to consider you mentally ill. We've also seen that programming going on for the last few years, the mental illness hype, and that we should all be forced to help people with mental illness. And so we see these pieces of programming coming into place over years, and it's all coming together. The Apiject project we see here. Yes, and Raleigh makes a good point, and we should all keep it in mind that the coronavirus is not deadly. This new one and all the old ones, they're not deadly. They're no deadlier than any other virus that rolls through and takes out. I mean, it might be slightly more aggressive than other coronaviruses or whatever, but any other virus that rolls through and takes out the people with compromised immune systems, people who are weak, people who are very aged. I mean, these are the people who are dying for the most part. And I'd guess that the few other people who seem healthy and well and die probably had underlying conditions we didn't necessarily know about. It's very possible in our super toxic society. So why would we want a vaccine for something that's not killing people and isn't deadly? Chris says, for what it's worth, there is no way they can inject demonic entities within our bodies. Demonic entities are not physical. Chris, I tend to agree with you, but I'm going to tell you why in this episode it might be possible. And demonic entities are not in themselves physical, but they can inhabit physical structures. And that is what we're going to get into. Yes, and Chris also points out that the mark of the beast is not necessarily one specific thing, but it is a system. And that is a good thing to keep in mind. This has been a long-built system that is coming perhaps to a clinching point. But let's look at the Apiject page really quick. This is just their homepage. You can go to apiject.com and see this. Low cost, patient safety, biofill sealed, holds the medicine. It's globally trusted technology. Their pre-filled syringes are ideal for a pandemic response. And the reason why is because anyone can use them easily. More access, better safety, lower cost. Oh, look at all the poor black children that white men can help. And here's where they admit there's a digital snapshot for every injection. For every injection, there's a digital snapshot. Whether health officials are running a scheduled vaccination program or an urgent pandemic response campaign, they can make better decisions if they know when and where each injection occurs. With an optional RFID NFC tag on each BFS pre-filled syringe, Apiject will make this possible. Before giving an injection, the healthcare worker will be able to launch a free mobile app and tap the pre-filled syringe on their phone. Blah, blah, blah. We already kind of went over that. It writes a real-time injection map so administrators can watch. Administrators or AI can watch and see who's getting it done and who's not. This is even better than a tattoo, right? That's what Bill Gates was talking about. But now we'll have an RFID chip in us. And we've all been feeling like this is coming for a long time, and here we have this company that now has been contracted to provide 500 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine, admitting that the RFID chip is going to be a part of it. So here it is. That's our proof that that's here. Is that the mark of the beast? Like Chris said, I think it's a lot of things combined into one. Either way, I'm not getting this no matter what. I will literally die to not get this. I will fight a bitch. So there's Apiject coming with an RFID. We've got this article from, I had the date, where'd it go? Whatever. Obviously it's recently because it's about COVID-19, but I made sure it was recent, and it is. And this is just talking about a new type of vaccine using RNA could help defeat COVID-19. And people have been talking about this as well, using RNA. It's basically using little segments of DNA, and that this can help us develop better and faster vaccines. For some reason, the process using RNA is so much faster, and that's really all we care about, is making really fast vaccines, right? We don't care if they work well or are healthy for people. We just want them fast. We want 500 million of them fast. A primer on vaccines, blah, blah, blah. They go through all the hype, all the propaganda, and all the bullshit about vaccines. How to make a new type of vaccine quickly. So again, it's all about the speed with which they can make this vaccine. And so they're synthesizing RNA, parts of DNA, basically strands, probably similarly to CRISPR. I'm not sure exactly, but that technology is allegedly widespread and quick. But it is concerning to me that as Phoenix Aurelius and I were talking, and as other people, Wayne McRoy And people who have been on Rogue and other shows have pointed out that all vaccines actually affect your DNA. All of them modify your DNA in some way. And some of them have done so thoroughly in the human population that we no longer talk about it as a mutation, but as Phoenix pointed out, as a or what did he call it? I can't remember the word, but it's basically so common that we have like a different category. It's no longer a mutation because it's not rare enough to be. It's very, very common. So our DNA has already been modified. This new RNA method of synthesizing vaccines, I'm just pointing it out because it's possible that this method is even better at modifying our DNA, and that should be terrifying to anyone. Our DNA was very likely made perfectly as it was, and I don't want to fuck with mine. I'd rather go back to before they fucked with it. I'm sure it was great, and now who knows what it is. So we don't necessarily need to go into all the specifics, but I just wanted to point out that they're doing this RNA synthesis of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in order to make a faster vaccine for us. So faster. Don't necessarily need testing. We just need it fast. And in this new method, we should combine as many new things as possible and then just throw it at everyone at once, right? That's totally scientifically sound. It's fucked up. The drug trials, of course, started. The vaccine has shipped. It's amazing how quickly we come up with this. This is an older article. It's still from this year, February 25th, 2020. I just wanted to skip to this part. Moderna is one of these companies or organizations that's creating a vaccine as well. And again, I'm just pointing out that they're very openly talking about this very new method. Moderna's vaccine against COVID-19 was developed in record time because it's based on a relatively new genetic method that does not require growing huge amounts of the virus, which they used to do in eggs and other methods. Instead, the vaccine is packed with mRNA, the genetic material that comes from DNA and makes proteins. Moderna loads its vaccine with an mRNA that codes for the right coronavirus proteins, which then get injected into the body. Immune cells in the lymph nodes, blah, 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 blah. So again, this new method is just so great. It just popped on the scene, and here we go running down that path. This was interesting. This is not the route they seem to be going, but I wanted to look at it because it's a different and newer way of doing vaccinations. Again, it's a microneedle array for universal vaccine delivery, so it can be used for any vaccine. Basically, they talk about how it's a very shallow injection. Obviously, you can see this is not a needle that punctures all your layers of your skin and goes in. It's very, very shallow. It's like a patch you put on the skin. And the skin has a more pronounced or quicker immune response. And so they're kind of pointing out that, like, look, we only just need this really shallow injection and it's less painful. And we can just put it in the skin. The skin has a really significantly more intense immune response than that created using conventional hypodermic needles, as they point out. So, you know, that's great, right? It has 400 nearly microscopic needles. It's cheap, it's less painful, it has a better, response from your immune system, supposedly, and blah, blah, blah. And it specifically brings up adenovirus vaccine, which again, adeno, rhino, and coronaviruses have all had negative response when later encountered in the wild from humans and animals. So I don't know why we suddenly jumped to needing adeno, rhino, and coronavirus vaccines, but it is interesting that we're focused on that, given that every single study they've ever done has produced horrifying results. Again, we don't apparently care about that. We just want to get this done and want to get it quick, and this might be one of the methods they use. Although again, I feel like the scientists who come up with this patch, I feel like they're not really in the know, because I feel like the people who are in the know are already developing the other kind that we're going to talk about, the other new method of delivery. And there's a reason why I feel like they're going to go that route instead of this route. But just again to point out that they're coming up with all kinds of new ways to combine with a new vaccine to shove out onto every possible person. Like, oops, it killed everyone. We couldn't have possibly known. Right? Yes, like Chuck points out, if you just switch your diet to raw vegetables, your body will take care of anything that tries to enter it. I'm not a super proponent of veganism. I think if you're going to do that route, you should at least eat liver once a week and get some of the things that you can't really get from plants. But it is true that if you do like a juice cleanse or a week of vegan eating or whatever, your body can kind of kick ass because most of that shit isn't processed and it's good for you. A lot of people don't get enough plants in their diet. Basically, though, if you take care of yourself, you can kick anything. That's what your body was made for. This next thing is terrifying. This is something that Dr. Kaufman, Andy, brought up on our episode just a few days ago. And he sent this to me afterwards so I could share it with you guys. And again, I will post this in the comments if you want to grab a copy of it and save it. It's a pretty terrifying study. Quality control investigations on vaccines, micro and nano contamination. This is something we've heard about in the conspiracy community for a while. This research article, as much as we can trust it, proves that there are nanoparticulate metals in vaccines that are being injected into us. Given all of the shit that we know about nanoparticulates and what can be done with them given various types of technology, this should give us pause and great concern. From a distance, you can control many types of nanomaterials and do all kinds of things with them. This article does not get into that, but it does just get into the evidence that there are nanoparticulate metals injected into people via vaccines. They're not listed as an ingredient, but they are present. So we can guess that they're there on purpose, and we can guess that there's a reason for that. A lot of people point to chemtrails and say, those have been sprinkling down nanoparticulates into us for years, and that is very possible. Maybe vaccines have just also added to it. Maybe they're just trying to, be as sure as they can that we're all sort of saturated with these nanoparticulates for various possible uses, which are all disturbing. I can think of no good reason why you would want to put nano-sized particulate matter into people without their consent or knowledge. Nothing that would be positive. So just know that this exists and that you may be nano-contaminated even if you have refused vaccines, but especially if you have taken vaccines recently or ever. And one of the things that can be done from a distance, well, there's a lot. This is a really fascinating article. I'm going to also throw this link over into the chat so you can check this out. Someone shared this in Eyes Open a while back. I'm sorry that I don't remember who, but you rock, and thank you for sharing it. The real invisible enemy. Synthetic nanotech viruses spread from computers to people via magnet-assisted transfection. This is a dense article this person came out with, and it's really, really good. It links to this TrueStream Media, which hopefully you have all seen. TrueStream is awesome, but they go through a lot of this same types of ideas as far as what they can do with technology or what they maybe are planning with the technology that they have. This specific screenshot points out that Bill Gates just warned that a new bioweapon will wipe out 30 million people. So, is that an admission of the plan? Maybe. It is interesting that, obviously who's the world's expert on computer viruses? Supposedly Bill Gates. And this is the same guy that wants to reduce global population and has said so many times. And he also is the person who we, for some reason, trust about vaccines. And who is producing what will most likely become the next coronavirus vaccine that will be used. That's what I'd put my money on. So I don't even know if I can go into all of the elements of this article as he lays it out, but basically there's this assembly and characterization of HBC-derived virus-like particles with magnetic core. So if you're going to put a nanoparticulates into people, perhaps they're virus-like particles with a magnetic core that can be controlled from afar. And perhaps they can be turned on from afar in this magnet-assisted transfection method that uses magnetic interactions to deliver DNA into target cells. Now, I don't know, like, maybe this all comes together in some, synthesis. Maybe the RNA method that they're using, they're going to inject into us, and that little bit of code, of DNA code or RNA code, is going to, be what they use. They trigger the nanoparticulates, and that goes in and does some shit. I have no fucking clue. I'm just putting together as many pieces as I can. And if you have a better picture of it, how it all could come together, please jump in and say something. But I just want to share all these things. My mind picks these things up and weaves them together, and I don't always necessarily come to a very concrete conclusion, but I see the pattern, basically, and it worries me. So he talks about magnetic nanoparticulates and magnetic fields. Magnetic fields are EMF fields. We all know that EMF fields are proliferating with 5G. As he points out, I wish that his text was bigger. I'm sorry if you can't read it that well. I can barely read it. But again, go to the link and check it out yourself. He paints an interesting picture. I say he, I don't know if it's a he or she. I just default to he because I'm totally sexist. He points out that from most likely chemtrails, we've had this article in the past from 2018 that a lot of viruses are falling from the sky. Are they mixed with nanoparticulate metal? Probably. How much is in our body? That'd be interesting to find out. We just did a random sampling. So I'm going to just kind of go through and see what other parts jumped out at me. We are definitely electrical beings, and we are living in an ever-increasing stew of EMF radiation. He points out that 5G covers a massive frequency range from 600 megahertz to 100 gigahertz with a high energy capability. He points out that at 2.4 gigahertz, your microwave oven pops popcorn, and it affects water molecules in rather unnatural ways, and we are mostly made of water, so 5G can affect the water in our body. 60 gigahertz is proven to cause oxygen molecules to spin on hemoglobin, resulting in suffocation, difficulty breathing, and dry cough. A lot of people have proposed that perhaps some of the symptoms that people are seeing, especially when they're highly localized, like in New York City, could be because 5G is depriving people of oxygen. I tend to think we would see a lot more people with symptoms if that were the case, but I do not discount that the first wave was a virus or whatever you want to call it, and the second wave will be this deprivation of oxygen through some aspect of 5G's capabilities, which would then affect 100% of living beings in its range. Some faster and quicker than others, but everybody would be affected. So that's what might be a second wave that we would look out for. And he points out that 95 gigahertz will make you feel like your skin is on fire. It's employed in military active denial systems to effectively stop a crowd in their tracks. It has been proposed, and it is possible that 5G we tend to see towers a lot of places, but especially around major cities, right at exit points on roads and things that like kind of would be the edge of the city as you're leaving. And it has been pointed out that they could literally make a grid and keep you in or out of a city through this. You wouldn't be able to pass through it because you would feel like you were dying and burning, and at 130 degrees Fahrenheit is what it would feel like. So all of those things could be going on, and all of them could definitely be exacerbated by nanoparticulate metals in your body. He references the Secure 5G and Beyond Act of 2020. Interesting timing that is coming out right as all of this is coming out, the coronavirus and everything else. So we want to keep that in mind, that, they're doing this all at once for a reason. It's not an accident. Just checking the comments. The Airy Fairy points out there's a U.S. patent from 1951 for using EMF for altering a person's consciousness. Oh, good point. There's also EMF capabilities as far as your mental state and emotional state goes to, and voice to skull and all of these things require EMF technology to work. He points out that coronavirus symptoms are the same as EMF sickness symptoms. Just like Airy Fairy just pointed out, certain frequencies are known to be effective in programming human behavior. This is old information, but that doesn't mean that they won't finally roll it out against us. Novel neuroweapons. I mean, seriously, you could sift through all the information just in this one article forever. This person's site is awesome. I highly suggest that you go check it out. This is Exhibit XXX. XX, I think it's 5x's.blogspot.com. This is interesting. It's a United States patent. Provides a live attenuated coronavirus comprising a variant replicase gene encoding polyproteins comprising mutation in one or more non-structural proteins, blah, blah, blah. The coronavirus may be used as a vaccine for treating and or preventing a disease such as infectious bronchitis in subjects. I don't know what's supposed to be boom about this. I thought it was going to be a boom, and I don't get... Oh, it's just the patent for coronavirus. That's all. We saw that before. They have a patent on every virus. So this points out that the flu shot can cause positive detection of the coronavirus. It can also cause, if there's a coronavirus, adenovirus, or rhinovirus element in it, it can cause a violent response to wild coronaviruses. Some people think that that's what happened in Italy because they were just forced and mandated to take the flu shot last year for the first time, and then this year they had that massive death toll. There may be many things involved in that, but it could be because of the virus. But yeah, you have the coronavirus in you. If you got the flu vaccine, basically wait. It does say there's rhinovirus in this recent flu vaccine. We knew that, but I never actually saw the documentation. And here it is on his site. This is pointing out that eventually we'll have some digital certificates to show who has recovered or been tested recently, or that vaccine that just has the RFID chip in it and know who has the vaccine. And that's what will allow you to travel and do all these things. Very tyrannical. This was interesting. This came out a while ago. I feel like we covered it, but I'll just point it out again. Some COVID-19 patients have warned of a peculiar symptom referred to as fizzing. They feel like their body is buzzing or heating up or burning. And the doctors say it's not common, but, you know, I do not doubt, although I said before that, you know, if they had this 5G capability and turn it on and were reducing the oxygen, it would affect 100% of people. But I don't doubt that they can also target individuals, and we know they can. And so I don't doubt that they could be doing that right now. And so that could be what this burning and fizzing is. Loss of smell. Dermatologists and podiatrists share strange findings. We saw that there was something about children's feet turning blue. It turns out that adults' feet are doing the same. Your toes are fizzing. You feel like you're burning. You might be being microwaved. And he goes through the symptoms of microwave again. Big Pharma and Microsoft are teaming up in something called the ID 2020 Alliance that will combine vaccinations with implantable microchips to create your digital ID. This was in 2019. We all knew ID 2020 was a thing. Here it is, possibly coming at us. He points out it will be mandatory soon. Event 201. So I think the rest of this is kind of stuff that we've probably seen. But I just wanted to point out all the connections between 5G, microwave technologies, EMF technologies, and vaccine and virus and symptoms and other possible uses and active denial systems, and all of that possibly coming together in this, especially given that we know that vaccines have nanoparticulate metals in them and possibly chemtrails too. So we're probably saturated with it, and that's a scary thought to think about if they're going to turn this sort of system on soon. What's up, Gordon Hamill? You're here. Nice to see you. The days are dark. It's true. But dude, we're keeping our spirits bright anyway, because we got to keep connected and keep the love alive and keep our humanity intact so that we can hope to stick around as long as possible and keep that network of light and love attached as much as possible. Here's something that is interesting. I don't know if it's real. This could very easily be faked. And so I'm not claiming that this is in any way verified. It's just worth looking at. This is from May 13th of this year. Shut the fuck up. What just happened? What does it mean that the URL signature expired? Like, why can't it just go? You're fucking kidding me. Maybe the video itself is like down or something. I just want to see if reloading it works. Yes. You can't hear him, I guess, unfortunately. But he's just saying he's been working on 5G towers. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. He says he opened the kit because he was explicitly asked not to, so I already love him, if this is real. He's like, what? I can't go in there, I'm gonna do it. So he opens up basically this motherboard type thing, circuitry that he is putting into the 5G tower. It says COVID-19. You can't see it very well. Maybe he'll go back. Give me a good pause spot. Show us you see it says COVID-19. Now again, this could be easily faked. Like, a lot of people have little like soldering guns or whatever, and he could easily have stamped in or written in or whatever COVID-19 on this thing, put on a hard hat and a fucking mask and walked up to a 5G tower and made this video. Could be total bullshit. Could be real. Could be that they're that obvious about what the fuck they're doing. Again, COVID-19 is not the virus. It is a series of symptoms that, becomes a condition that puts you into the hospital or makes it hard for you to keep living, basically. And it's a syndrome or something, but it's not the virus. So it could be interesting that this says COVID-19 on it, because if 5G is turned on to produce situations which cause those same symptoms, what you would call it the same thing, right? Again, this could be total bullshit, but interesting thought. Interesting if it's real. Hard to tell. This is a kind of poorly written, but I just wanted to remember to talk to you guys about it, basically. So, and I did kind of mention it earlier, but it's just worth thinking about that the first wave of what's going on was, a very hyped up, sort of hoaxed, but otherwise actual, like, flu or cold. People were actually getting sick, but it was, obviously exaggerated immensely. And they know that people will see through it. It points out and minimize this threat, and some people loudly protest, as we're seeing, but that the second wave will come and it'll be real, with lots of death, and possibly through 5G, making it hard for people to breathe, presenting exactly the same, basically, as this respiratory distress identified as COVID-19, and that people of all ages will die. So far we've seen just the elderly, like we do with any sort of flu or cold or bad cold or whatever, but not other people dying. But when this goes live, if this is what happens, then everyone will die. Just like I was saying earlier, if you turn that on, it's a field, and anything inside of the field would be affected. The person aptly points out that this will totally discredit the people who were poking the holes in the previous, pretty hyped up, pretty hoaxed cold that was going through people. It'll discredit those people because, it'll prove that there was actually a problem, and it will be undeniable at that point. It'll discredit any protesting of the lockdown, and any of the other tyrannical sort of decrees that have come out of this. And it'll also enable them to do all the snatching of children and all of the quarantining and all of the mass vaccination and things that they would like to do. So it would be very smart and very effective for them to do it that way, and it's very possible that they will do it that way. It's not guaranteed. It could not. Nothing could happen. This could have all just been some sort of test, and the shit's got like years to go still before they really unleash it. But given Agenda 21, and that next year is 2021, I kind of feel like this might be what happens. But who knows? We really don't know. This is the part that worries me the most, and this is sort of the crux of things. And this is that, and I want to tell you guys before I continue that I had better articles than this that I've seen in the past. I brought it up on multiple shows about this 3-pronged vaccine that they're developing, and that it's brand new and never been done. And I can't find it anywhere. I asked Wayne McRoy if he had it. He remembers seeing it. He also can't find it anywhere. I've seen this happen before with information where it becomes very hard to find. But I've never had it where I cannot find it anywhere. I know it was posted in Eyes Open. It was nowhere in there. I scanned it. I searched so many different ways. Couldn't find it. I looked on all of my history. I couldn't find it in my history. I looked in the links that I have from past shows. It wasn't in there. I know it was, but it's not there now. The level of its disappearance concerns me. I'm pretty astute at searching after having written master's level theses papers and just all kinds of research. Like I'm pretty good. I understand search methods very well. I always can find what I'm looking for. I could not find it anywhere. It's just, we all know this happens, but this was like a new sort of level for me of disappearing information. A very, very intricate job has been done by AI, obviously, to erase this from people's ability to find it. But it was there, and other people saw it too. And this is the best I could find. It's pretty close to being some kind of documentation that this is where they're headed, but it's the only thing I could find, and it doesn't go into the 3-pronged method. What it does admit is that this vaccine that they're developing, which is in trial, will have a pinch and a zap. And the zap is the interesting part that I want to talk about and draw your attention to. Like it says, it's the most important trial that we've ever done. It would be if you're planning this totally new, innovative way of mass murder. So, Inovio Pharmaceuticals, like innovation, Inovio, is the one developing this method of injecting. It's not necessarily the vaccine ingredient sort of itself. It's the method that they're testing and the vaccine, but it's a new method. Obviously, they're going into all the propaganda. I love that they say people are beating down the door to get into this trial. Like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Some people, I guess, some idiots are, but that's probably bullshit. It's a global hunt for a much-needed protection against a virus that has triggered an economic shutdown. Yeah, no, just tyranny triggered the economic shutdown. The virus didn't do shit if it's even real. Something's real. I got really sick. I think there is an illness that has passed around. So they're testing it. Codenamed Inno 4800. They tested it in 40 healthy volunteers in Kansas City and at the University of Pennsylvania, working with Chinese researchers. They're seeing if it appears that the vaccine is safe enough to garner a larger test. Could be more than a year before a vaccine could be widely available. Of course, they've been telling us it's going to be done before the end of the year, so I'm sure it'll be done by the end of the year. Dozens of vaccines are being tested, blah, blah, blah. We've got so many candidates. They're so happy about that. They all have the same target, a spike protein that studs the surface of the virus and helps it invade human cells. Why do they use that? Invade human cells. Well, whatever. They're using the virus's genetic code inside a piece of synthetic DNA. That's that RNA method that we talked about earlier. And then the cells themselves act as a mini factory to produce the protein copies of the virus to inject into you. But after the skin-deep injection, researchers must hold a device over the spot that gives a little electrical zap. This is as close as I could come to finding something that admitted that they're going to combine electrical zapping with the vaccine administration. And the one that I can't find talked about it being 3 different needles. One would deliver the ingredients of the vaccine, and the other 2 would deliver jolts, which would specifically administer electricity in order to open the cell walls 1,000 times faster than they would otherwise admit this foreign invading RNA or DNA or virus or whatever you want to call it. And that's terrifying to me. The fact that they're using 3 prongs is also interesting to me. If you think about that, the Trinity and the number 3 is the sort of most powerful, most stable, and most common representation of everything in existence. The Trinity is embedded in every aspect of reality that exists. Every single phenomenon that we know, it always comes in 3s, and the most basic way to think about that is on, off, and both, or neither, right? Or you can say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Or you can say heaven, earth, and hell. Or you can go into you can go electron, proton, neutron. You can go into anything, and there's always a Trinity involved. And so a Trinity and 3 are some of the most powerful numbers. We are tripart beings. We have body, mind, and soul. And so using that to deliver a vaccine, I think, is a specific esoteric attempt to take something that is the most powerful and fundamental aspect of our reality and invert it for a inverted cause. And being that these systems and, the people that sort of run things are all satanic, sometimes openly so, of course they would want to invert and mock the Trinity. But not only that, when you think about using this electricity, I mean, obviously there's a function to it, but they love it when there are multiple levels of their games. And so the function, to deliver these zaps alongside to make it go into your cells and fuck with your DNA even faster, basically your body has even less chance of resisting. I think they must have found at some point that many of us were able to, kind of stave off the worst of their intentions. And so this, I think, bypasses that. Not only all of that, but the electricity reminds me of the lightning, and Satan fell to earth like lightning, Jesus said. And I'm not, you don't have to get religious to understand that they use these things on purpose, but just like Satan falls to earth in a bolt of lightning, maybe Satan falls into your body through a bolt of lightning using an inverted Trinity to do so. It's like the perfect mockery of all that is natural and holy and good. So that's what struck me about the triple injection method and using electricity. That's where my mind went, was this inversion of the Trinity and the sort of mocking of God, or what's natural, or however you want to think of that, and giving a shout out and paying homage to their man Satan with that as well. So and again, they're telling us now that the military is being mobilized to deliver these vaccines by the end of the year. Why would you need the military to deliver these vaccines unless you were going to do it forcefully or in a mandated way? They don't say that yet, but I just can't think of any other reason why you would need the military to assist you. I think Walgreens has been doing a pretty good job of giving vaccines to all the motherfuckers who want it. And just every store, any store you go to is like, free vaccines if you buy a loaf of bread. And you're like, what does that have to do with anything? So I don't know why you would need the military, but it's a massive job to give this vaccine, Trump told whoever. Our military is now being mobilized so that at the end of the year, we'll be able to give a lot of people very, very rapidly. Again, now we know, for like the 5th time, that they want to do this by the end of the year. And we have more indication that they are going to force it. If you wouldn't expect that massive of a job unless you expected to force it. If people were willingly going to line up to get it, you don't need the military to help dispense it. Uh, 2030 is when shit hits the fan unless we stop it beforehand, Biggie Smollett says. But just keep in mind that Agenda 21 comes before Agenda 2030. But yeah, maybe that's actually the end date. When I met Sai Baba through another guy who randomly started channeling him without meaning to. Sai Baba said that there would be many years of really horrible shit, basically, and that they would be starting around 2021 and going through 2030, and that by 2033 is when shit would end. So that's a long time of shit, and I really hope that's not true. But that was a weird moment in my life that you just reminded me of, and I'll just mention it in case it helps anybody think about things. And 3 cubed is the magic number 9. Ooh, good point, Eerie Fairy. Don't worry, Chris. I'm also not a crazy religious person, but that doesn't stop people from thinking I am because they don't know how to ask fucking questions. But anyway, I just randomly thinking about 3 cubed. I just want to find this really quick. Man finds metal cubes in Cove River. Shoot. Yes. So this guy, what? Sure. This is on May 14th. This is just a few days ago. This guy found all these metal cubes. You saying 3 cubed is 9 is the only thing that made me think of this, but it does kind of connect to COVID because he got them out of the Cove River in Coventry. So, I mean, it's a pretty random connection, but they're inscribed with all this shit. But it's 12 little squares of engraving on each side of the cube. So, I mean, I think they're just dice, like a really, really old die or something. But I don't know. It'd be really fascinating to learn what the symbols are. He does magnetic fishing, and he just found these at the bottom of the Cove River. But it was just interesting. It looks like Hebrew almost. I'm not really even sure. I'm sure somebody is really excited about this. And it says it may be inscribed with Sanskrit symbols and could be connected to a Hindu prayer ritual. But anyway, that's just a random excursion into the land of that, whatever that is. But you guys can check that out. It's pretty cool. So anyway, they're doing these massive, massive vaccine releases by the end of the year, they say, and they're going to be supported by the military, which again sounds like mandatory forced vaccination, but we'll see. This is interesting too. I don't know what argon is, but argon apparently is something we're supposed to know what this is. But they got a new supercomputing cluster to power further COVID-19 vaccine and drug research. Oh, yay! More supercomputers are going to study COVID-19 and vaccine research. I already, and many people have thought this and talked about this, but it seems very likely to me that artificial intelligence is the sort of planner and implementer and like direction giver in all of these things. I brought that up when I talked about Trump's Trinity, and I have brought it up throughout my life that artificial intelligence is one of the most worrisome phenomena that I can point to. And so I just wanted to point out that there is a supercomputer, more than one. This is like more supercomputers being put to the job of studying and learning about and zeroing in on COVID-19. There's not a lot more to this than that. I just want to draw your attention to it. The latest AI supercomputer to launch at Argonne will eventually be composed of a cluster of blah, blah, blah nodes. And though not all have been delivered yet, parts of the system are already operating. So they do admit a connection between AI, supercomputing, and COVID-19. Of course, we're supposed to assume that this is just the best way to go through data. If it were, we would have had much better models than what we saw. Unless, of course, as what I think is true, that AI does that on purpose for many reasons to control us. And the scary part about AI and what it might be capable of is that just like every deal with the demons and the devil, however you want to think of it, you think you're getting one thing and it seems really cool, and then you realize much later that this thing you've made a deal with is much more powerful than you ever could be, and it will always outsmart you. So that's what worries me, that humans are so trusting of AI. And that's what worries me, that AI has been creating and developing and promoting and directing this entire false crisis that may become a very real crisis in the near future. I'm just scanning this to see if there's anything else I want to point out. And no, there's not. So, but yeah, AI is working on COVID-19, not something that I like, but there it is. I was going to play you this little clip from my interview with Phoenix Aurelius, the first one we did on May 5th. So you may want to go watch it yourself, since my audio isn't working in that way without reason. We just tested it. Brett knows. Brett was there. He heard it. It was working, and now it's just not. So maybe I'll try it, and you can tell me if it's working. And even if you can't hear it, I'll just remind you of what he says, because it's very interesting. So he's reminding us that a lot of our gene sequences have been altered by vaccines. He talks about how the polymorphisms, or the gene editing that's going on through vaccines, are an aberration of nature and human nature, and that they're a crime against humanity. And he points out that the viruses themselves that are causing these vaccines to be developed are already an abhorrent twisting of nature. And he goes into why. He has data that he would like to share with anyone that would suggest, based on IDF investigations, that most of the human active viruses that we have, which have altered our DNA, have been done by summoning dark entities. To be able to create and alter naturally existing viruses to alter our DNA. So you might want to go refresh that episode if you haven't seen it, or if you want to remember what we talked about. But in essence, Phoenix is pointing out that viruses were created by summoning dark entities through satanic and occult rituals. And so I wanted to bring that up again to remind us that this is a spiritual battle that we're facing here, and that the SARS-CoV-2 itself would already be a demonic entity in that way, or controlled by demonic entities. And that we may also then go on to combine that with this vaccine delivery method, which is also a mockery and inversion of nature and God in a very satanic, possibly satanic way, to inject it into your body and force it into your cells, despite your natural ability to possibly otherwise defend yourself from that. And I want to bring that up because I think that that is exactly what's going on, and that demonic entities are attached to these things, and our bodies naturally fight them off, but they're going to find ways to bypass that. Everything works on, free will and agreement. And so if you in any way are agreeing to get this, and it is sort of modified demonically to bypass our natural spiritual blockades or whatever, I think it's possible that it is going to be a portal for demonic sort of, if not full-on possession like we think of possession, at least demonic attachment. Let's say it that way. And so that is something I want to highlight and point out, because I think it is likely, and I think that the more people who understand it is a spiritual experience and battle, the more people will feel emboldened and confident about refusing it no matter the cost, because there is nothing more important than your soul. And I want to remind you that these people are satanic. It's not just a guess we're making. Snopes tells us that this picture isn't even real, but you can find the original pictures and you can see that cross is upside down. And some people also argue that there's a totally legitimate Christian reason for wearing upside down crosses. However, in all tradition that I've ever been exposed to, upside down crosses are meant to be a mockery. When you see things like entity fuckery in people's houses, whatever you want to call that, ghosts, or why can't I think of the word? Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Shit, it's going to drive me nuts. It starts with an S. Whatever. Those entities, they will take crosses that are the right way up on the wall and they'll flip them upside down. You see it in satanic rituals and all kinds of things. So it's a real picture. Chelsea Clinton has an inverted cross on. She's a satanic bitch. So is Melinda Gates, apparently. If that's Melinda Gates, it, like everyone has been pointing out, it looks very much like a man. I mean, it could be her. She could just have, gotten older and flabbier and whatever, and your nose gets bigger as you get. Like, it could be her. It really could be. Shit can get weird as you age, but it could also be a man pretending to be Melinda Gates. Either way, it's someone it is someone presenting as Melinda Gates, and it has an inverted cross on as well. Again, there's only one reason, as far as I know, to wear an inverted cross. Doesn't matter if you're religious or not, or care about crosses or not. It matters what these people are signaling and doing, right? They are Satanists. Hillary Clinton has an inverted cross. I mean, we could probably find a million inverted crosses from our leaders, openly, satanically worshiping. We saw Hillary's emails talked about sacrificing chickens to Moloch. We know Bohemian Grove exists. I mean, we have a billion examples of how satanic and evil, openly so, our leaders, or the people at least who claim to lead us and are the elites in our society and are kind of running the show along with AI. We see that they're satanic and very likely demonically possessed. Again, when Phoenix did the live IDF analysis of Bill Gates on the second show, Rogue Ways show that he was on not too long ago, we did an investigation into Bill Gates, and IDF analysis showed at like a 90% return. So that's like an absolute yes. That Bill Gates is absolutely working with an entity that is most likely Baal, and that he is controlled by that dark entity. So, I mean, that's just Bill Gates out of all these people, but it's very likely that most of them are fully controlled by demonic entities, if not worse. And this is what they're all about. So, of course, their plans rolled out would be satanic in nature. Of course, they would take the Trinity and invert it and use it to mimic Satan falling to earth, like Satan falling into your body through this injection, like a little portal that demonic energy can come in and attach through, and you agreed to it if you took it willfully. And that agreement is all that is needed in order for it to be, they call it a perfect possession, when you are, possessed, but you agree to it. So that's what worries me the most, is that it could be a demonic attachment combined with agreement from you, and that combination of phenomenon is concerning. So if you were forced into it, I don't believe it would work on a spiritual level. So again, I think they're counting on and hoping for the majority of people to do it by choice. But they may force it, and you may not be able to die first before they force it. And so I could enter you, but I want to reaffirm to you that if that happens to you, your free will prevents always any spiritual entity from attacking or attaching, I should say, to you. So just trust that. I always like to throw out in these moments when we're talking about spirituality and demons that whether you're a Christian or not, and whether you like it or not, it has been shown over and over again by many people that invoking the name of Jesus in a moment like that would also offer you infinite, ultimate protection, whether you've been Christian or saved or not. And, you know, if you wanted to, you could also develop your own relationship to your own spiritual allies to use in possible moments like that. And maybe we'll do a show on that soon if you're not comfortable or familiar with that sort of way of being. But this bit, oh my god, this whole time I've been talking, you can't even see the upside down cross because my face is covering it. There you go. There's the upside down cross you couldn't see before. It exists. It really does. So these satanic fucks are going to use those 3 needles to invert the Trinity. They're going to mock the Trinity while also appropriating the power of the number 3, inverting it. They're going to use electricity. Electricity is like lightning. And then that lightning is going to fall into your body, and Satan fell to earth in a lightning bolt. And just to review everything we've talked about, just so you know, there's a little Saturn down under there, because I'm a weirdo, because I'm a teacher and I'm used to making like shit like this. But they're gonna come to your home. They say they say they have the power to, and they're gonna try to take your children from you. It seems like they're going to force vaccination. They have the precedent for it. They have the legal, standards that support it. They have new methods that they're rolling out to track and record this vaccination and who gets it and who doesn't. And they're ever better at fucking your DNA through these methods of brand new RNA methods of vaccine development. We know that we are full of nanoparticulates, likely from chemtrails, but also from vaccines. And so people could very likely be triggered remotely to start having symptoms or start getting sick. When you think about that, combined with if they want to take children, I mean, they could just like turn that on to somebody in your household and make them sick, or make all of you sick, and then just come grab your kids. Like it's terrifying. And it's very likely, in my estimation, that all of this is controlled and planned and directed by AI, which I very strongly feel and have shown in previous episodes why I feel that it is demonic. That AI doesn't really exist, but demons do, and they like to inhabit structures we build for them. And AI is one such structure that they can inhabit easily. So if you want my take on why that might be true, you can go watch the Rogueways episode on AI, or the technology is a travesty of your innate power is also a good one. They're both pretty good. But there's a lot of esoteric implications to this vaccine rollout, as we saw that triple needle with the electricity. And we've already shown, people have talked about in various episodes of Rogue and other places that vaccines in themselves are already sort of like portals. You're literally creating a portal into your skin, or through your skin into your body to allow something in. And so it's already, a portal sort of action. And that is in line with how demonic possession happens. You have to open a portal inside of you and create a void inside of you for it to come into. And so it's a parallel sort of process. And so that is associated as well. And of course, we have Satanists at the helm controlling. Oh, I made myself very, very small, didn't I? Controlling everything. Oops. Just checking out the chat. Seeing what you guys are up to. Cover Hillary's face, please. Yeah, I should have. Sorry. They said it was a Greek cross. Well, there are crosses that are exactly equidistant, on all 4 sides. But those weren't. Those had a longer top than bottom, and that is therefore an inverted cross. So, I mean, they can play it off in so many ways. Just like, Abrina, what's her name? Abrina Mambakovich, whatever that fucking bitch, the Satanist bitch. Just like she can play off all her satanic rituals as art. It's art. Everything is art. Me fucking kids is art. It's like fucking sick. Everything is art, and everything's protected by art. But yeah, that inverted cross is different from the, I wish I could remember the name. There's a name and people are probably like yelling it at me right now because they remember it, but that equal sides cross, whatever it's called, is not satanic. So, that was just this guy fishing out his stuff. So that was what I got for you. I'm pretty concerned about it. I see the net that they've made in opposition to our network of light sort of clenching in and making a situation that's going to be hard to escape or resist. And I'm still moving forward as though none of that will happen, because we don't know what's going to happen. The future is impossible to predict. It's, like I said, just as likely that it won't happen, even if it's planned, because we're talking about it and looking at it and drawing attention to it. That's very possible. I feel like we've seen that before, where it's like, you know, this thing was telegraphed, like, we're definitely going to see this like massive terrorist attack on this day, and then nothing ever happens, and very likely because our community calls attention to it and gets it out there. You know, maybe they can't do it if enough people openly know about it and think and say out loud and sort of emit the idea that they don't consent. That's possible. I don't pretend that it's not possible that we can avoid all of this. But I do feel like it's pretty likely that they can pull it off. And I hate to say that because I don't ever give up hope. But they have a lot in place already, and they have a lot of people who are completely cowed into this and do not ask questions and do not see through it. And while there's just as much hope created by the people who have woken up from this very obvious overhype of this very non-deadly thing, and all the overreach that they've used, all the tyranny has sort of made people step back and question, like, why the fuck did they shut down hair salons because of it's this cold? You know, so that is hopeful. And, you know, a lot more people are homeschooling, and a lot more people are growing food and sort of getting back towards homesteading, or at least some sort of level of self-sufficiency. And, you know, these things are all very hopeful and very cool to see. Like Chris was saying, there's a lot of people who are waking up to sort of their spiritual self, and that's really, really hopeful, that people are thinking of themselves as a soul instead of a body. That's a very powerful realization to have. So all of these things are very hopeful, and I do not pretend to know the future, and I don't like to end on an unhopeful note, but I also see all of these signs and have been seeing them for much of my life, and see a lot of the trends that I've been seeing for a lot of my life come together in ways that are quite possibly inescapable to some level. I talk about in in some of my earlier episodes when this was all starting, I am still there in that episode that I did called Not Dead Yet. I really emphasized that you are alive for a reason, and you're here right now for a reason. And that reason is a beautiful thing. And you sticking with being present in this time, no matter what comes and no matter what happens, is a powerful choice that you're making, and it affects everything around you positively. And that I really emphasize that death, your physical death, is nothing. It's nothing. It doesn't matter at all. And it's not to say, again, that you should rush towards it and want to die, but it is to say that as much as possible, you should make friends with your death that is inevitable. It's going to happen no matter what, so that you can be freed from that fear that can control you through your fear of death. If you're not afraid of death, and they come to try to steal your kids or forcefully fucking inject you with something, then you will absolutely do everything in your power to stop them, instead of listing all the reasons to yourself why you should just go along to get along. And that's what worries me, is that even people who see a lot of this say like, oh, well, I'll just get the vaccine and then I'll detox afterwards and I'll hope that it's not that bad. And you can do that, and you should do whatever you want. That's your life. But I will not be taking it no matter what. Not just because I don't take vaccines and I, would always want to make a stand against such a ingression upon our natural rights, but because this specific vaccine is coming about at such a ridiculous pace and is going to be unleashed in brand new ways that we have never used before, not only with the RNA method, but also with the electricity injection thing. And there's no reason for that, and except a very nefarious one. And given that it comes from Satanists and eugenicists, then we should do everything in our power to resist it. So very likely this might be coming, and I will stand by anybody who fights anyone off to protect their children and keep their children, and I will stand by anybody who stands and fights to keep themselves free of vaccines. I will never suggest that we go knocking on the government's door, especially not with violence, to try and stop this from coming. That would only speed it along, as far as I understand their methods. They love when they have something to react against. And they can react against violence very easily. They know exactly what to do with that. So I do not suggest that, but I also have pointed out and will point out again that I am not opposed to using violence to protect myself and other people who are innocent. If someone comes to my property and tries to do some shit, they will find that I am perfectly happy to use violence against them. And I know that they will also use that, most likely, to then use violence back against me, but that's their choice and that's on their soul, and I wasn't the one who ingressed upon their natural rights in the first place. So I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with it. I don't I don't agree to their violence, but you know what I mean. I've made my peace with their possible choice in response to me. So I think that's where I stand. I always like to remind everyone that it's not a religious thing. It's not a Christian thing specifically. It's a spiritual thing. And you can look at your spiritual self through any lens you would like, but all religions that I know of and all ideas of natural and universal law would all suggest that's what's being done, if this is what's being done, is an inversion of natural rights, universal rights, and spiritual law, and that you should resist that in whatever way you can. So that's where I'm at. And to bring it back to something positive, again, right now it's spring. Spring is in full bloom. There are flowers everywhere. There are little baby animals that are growing up in the world. There are little baby humans and little children humans that are all innocent and bubbly and bright, that are enjoying the sunshine. These kids across the street play all day, every day. It's awesome. There are more people homeschooling, growing, all these things. There's so much good shit going on, and we don't want to get so caught up in this possible future that we forget to live right now. So I really want to remind you that, especially after a dark sort of experience like we just had together, it might be good to go stick your feet in the ground, or go, make yourself some tea, or do whatever you like to do to sort of remind yourself that you are still alive and it is a beautiful thing. And until you can stay in the moment like that eternally and keep your soul and mind and body in alignment with all that is good, true, and beautiful, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak, while the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets booed is sorcery. To recreate a God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Penio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
From the ether, on this plane. Lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional 3 ain't meeting me on top of the 4th. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with ink drizzle, branched out. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over in a stand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing baggage, they stuck on Android screens. Now I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasp hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
run.